Well, hey there, this is Cindy. As you know, I'm your host, and thanks so much for joining us today. I'm really glad you're here, and I can't wait for you to hear today's episode. You're in for a treat. We're doing something a little different today. But before we dive in, just wanted to give you a chance to share some ways that we maybe could work together if you are looking to uplevel your negotiation skills. I've got everything from online to group to my signature one-on-one mastermind or VIP experiences to help you better leverage your innate power to get more of what you want and deserve in life. So if that sounds interesting, check out our website at artoffemininenegotiation.com. And now, for the reason you are here, on to today's program, I'm so happy to introduce you to Melanie Lippman. And we're going to be talking about how to negotiate confidence and visibility with style. So welcome, Melanie.
Thank you so much for having me, Cindy. I'm so excited for this conversation.
I am really looking forward to it. Yeah, I think it's an issue that we don't talk about enough or even pay enough attention to, frankly. So I'm sure get a pad and pen. You're going to get lots of gold nuggets out there. And for those of you who don't know Melanie, Melanie Lippman's an image consultant and a personal branding expert. And she particularly focuses on helping high-powered women in male-dominated fields. I certainly know a thing or two about that. And she helps them to use style to communicate confidence, to build those all-important connections, and to achieve that next level visibility. And often as women, we sort of shy away from that visibility and dim our light a little bit. So hopefully you'll get loads of value out of this that will help you step up to be your most powerful negotiator. So why don't you kickstart us off, Melanie? Tell us, how did you come to this line of work?
It's so interesting. A lot of my clients come to me and their struggle is that they were born without the fashion gene. They are like, they come to me and they're like, I'm just missing something
Yeah.
because clothing or getting dressed feels very creative and it feels almost like this fairy tale thing that if you love numbers and you love facts and you love data, you just feel like it is something that feels really mystical and magical and that it's not meant for you. But me, myself, I was the person that was born with the fashion gene. I grew up, my family had an accessory store right outside of New York City.
Cool.
So I was born in the fashion industry and loved it. Went to the Fashion Institute of Technology, even during high school and throughout college, and then went and worked for designers for about 10 years. And what some people know and some people don't know is that the fashion industry is filled with 67-year-old men with white hair making all of the decisions about what we should and should not be wearing. So while I was super excited about, going in and making an impact, all 5 feet tall of me sitting at these tables being like, no, here. Who am I to be telling you what you should be buying? And I worked with stores like Neiman Marcus and Barney's and Harrods and all of the really, really big major brands. But what happened for me is that while I had this fashion gene that some of us crave to have, I quickly felt like I struggled to identify who I was within this world and found myself super lost.
Yeah.
And would do a lot of the things that women are told to do. So go follow trends and read fashion magazines and go buy all of these millions of things that will make our wardrobes and ourselves feel confident and successful and all the things. And none of them were working.
Yeah.
And I was really lucky to have a boss that tapped me on the shoulder and said, why don't you just be you? That's why you're here.
Wow. Nice.
And really saying that while you are not, the 60-year-old version of that you feel like you should be, you actually are super aligned with your clients and you have something to add. And,
Wow.
why don't you step into that? So I decided to let all of the things and all of the money and all of the time and the energy, like so many other women, I would panic shop before I had to go off to a big conference.
Yeah.
And instead of, doing my work, I was literally in hours in a department store trying to buy the right thing. I really decided that that wasn't working for me and I let it all go. And I just leaned into what worked for me
Yeah.
and got to figure out who I was in this deep internal knowing of what my values were and what I could bring to the table and what my message was. And really got to let everything else go, which was really, really freeing. So I
Wow.
just dressed from a place of confidence and knowing that I had the answer inside of me, as opposed to looking for external things outside, like panic shopping and
Yeah.
spending way too much money on all of it. And so that was my corporate story. And then when I left the corporate world, when I had a son, I just knew this was the thing that I needed to do.
Yeah.
And so I went through this whole process of, going back to the FIT and getting an image consultation degree and learning all the things, because there's actually science and math that has to do with getting dressed.
Yeah.
But really wanted to work with women in leadership, because as someone who was trying to find my own bearings, I just realized that how we show up really has a direct reflection about who we are, impact that we can have, and if we can just make it one less thing to think about,
Yeah.
it will make our lives so much easier.
I love it. I can't wait to dig into some of this. And it's funny, as you were saying that, I was thinking, wow, how amazing that it took one person, what an impact they can have in our life. When she said to you, why don't you just show up as who you are, right? I mean, just those powerful shifts. And it's funny when you're saying 5 feet, I think I remember everybody called me Too Tall Watson back in high school. And we could see them as liabilities at both ends of the spectrum unless we get really comfortable in our own skin. So I think that's great. And for our listeners there, I'm sure you can see already, I think we often think of this sort of whole design and style as being just fluff. But as you can see, there's so much more to it, and it can have a profound impact. So with that, Melanie, I always say, in my negotiation work, I always say our first and most important negotiation is with ourselves, right? Negotiating our mindset. So I'd love if you could share your thoughts on what mindset problems do you see in your work that arise that block women from stepping into their full power?
So one of the biggest things that women get on the phone with me is that because they are smart and they are successful and they have done all of the things, they are embarrassed that it is stressing them out
Yeah.
that they are not dressing
Yeah.
to match, to be aligned with their success and their accomplishments.
Yeah.
And something that normally is the reason why they come and contact me is someone has mistaken them for someone who was their assistant or their paralegal or someone that has just not done the thing. So, and it's this internal like struggle within them of like, I am not a vain, superficial person. And the fact that clothes are bothering me, it's such a fight within them. And even as I work with women, it becomes a resistance and a struggle that they are like, almost like, I have important work to do. And we're sitting here talking about clothes. And then we start to unpack of that they're not showing up and they're not doing it and they're not raising their hand and they're even on a soccer field and looking at another mom and are saying, oh, she's got her act together and I don't.
Yeah.
Like, it really is this thing that holds a lot of women back, and they're not showing up for themselves. They're not playing as big as they can. And they're also not paving a way for other women behind them, which is one of their core values is like, I do not want the other women to work as hard as I have to make a name for
Yes.
myself. So the first thing is definitely that internal struggle. The second thing that always comes up as far as mindset is a lot of times we have to deal with our 8-year-old selves
Yeah.
when it comes to getting dressed and showing up. So for me or for a lot of my clients, it is the things that were modeled to them when they were growing up. So I grew up in, the age of where smoking cigarettes and tab was like what you needed to do in order to get into your clothes, and yo-yo dieting and all of the things.
Yeah.
So we were all shown this not so healthy version of body image issues.
Yeah.
And that is 100% direct correlation when it comes to getting dressed. Like our thoughts and our feelings about how we are and how we see ourselves in the world really affects how we dress ourselves and also how we invest in ourselves. As women, I love a bargain. I love, shopping this, finding the thing at a discounted price. But sometimes it's at the cost of what? Like what we are not really investing in
Yes.
because of the idea that we're saving a few dollars, because in our mind, we should be putting the money towards our children. We shouldn't be
Oh,
investing in
it is
ourselves.
so, oh my gosh, you got
All of that.
so much unpacking to do there. It's true. We put everybody else's needs ahead of ours as women in particular, but that confidence piece, I mean, I love that you're drawing that direct connection as well, because I do think when we don't pay attention to the things that make us show up more confidently, it is going to affect your ability to show up in your full power, no question. And I'm really chuffed that you talked about investment because it is one of the things I see over and over again in the personal development world. Women will invest all kinds of money on their kids, as you say, or things going back to the family. But boy, it is like pulling teeth getting women to invest in themselves, both for in terms of style, in terms of their clothing, in terms of that wardrobe, and even in terms of their personal development. So I love that you spoke to the elephant in the room. Now, part of that, I guess, ties to our personal brand. And I know you do some great work around that. So you hear a lot of, I think a lot of women, a lot of people out there in particular have confusion about what that means. So explain for us, what do you call a personal brand and how do you help them develop it?
So our brand with anything, communication, how we hold ourselves, who we align ourselves with, is really about the message that we're putting out there in the universe.
Yeah.
And our clothing is the largest form of nonverbal communication. So whether you're on a Zoom screen or whether you're meeting someone in person, you are literally sending a message to everyone around you and also to yourself about how you see yourself in the world,
Yeah.
and about, whether it comes to investing time or what they should be thinking of you. And it really is about controlling the message that you're sending there and also making it super concise and super easy. So I talk about style all the time, and style has a lot of definitions.
Yeah.
And when I talk about style branding, it's really about honing in on what your own message is to the universe. So it can be colors, and it can be about how you're showing up, and it could be about where you shop, or how you are pairing something, but all of it really, really embodies about how you see yourself, and if you are embodying this version of yourself that really aligns with your achievements.
Yeah.
So what I love to do for my clients is to make it easy. So we become
Good.
super overwhelmed with all of the options, whether it is clothes or whether it's where we should shop or what colors we should. There's all these shoulds, I keep saying this word. But so it's like there's so many options in there. So what I do for my clients is I actually say, let's let all that go. And these are the 2 or 3 things that we're going to focus on, so you can build that trust within yourself of how you show up. So
Yeah.
it's like it goes from like complete overwhelm to this is who I am, this is who
Yeah.
I embody, and it makes it one less decision. And it's taking that control of how you want others to see you each and every day, as opposed to getting dressed each day and saying, "Who am I?"
Yeah.
Which is
Now,
how a lot of us get dressed.
I would love you to dig in on that if you don't mind. Like, what would you say? What are those 2 or 3 things? Because I suspect a lot of our listeners, like me, maybe do get in that spin cycle about this and feel like it's just it's too much. I'm just gonna go grab something. So, what would be those tips that you would give? As what is that foundational starting point to really get to kickstart this
Mhm.
process?
The first step is to really have a true understanding of what you want someone to think about when you walk into a room.
Okay.
And by the way, it's you too, like how you want to embody yourself. And I always will challenge my clients is like, can we take away competent? Can we take away smart? Can we take away all the obvious things and
Yeah.
then really dig deep into what you want that message? Because our clothes, we do not realize it, but like our clothes can make us be approachable. It can
Yeah.
make us be friendly. It can make us look like we are creative. There's so many things that are going on in there. And the other thing is that we could also use our clothes to help advance our message or to articulate, with the position that we're trying to have. But the first thing is to really say, who do I want to be when I walk in that room, and what do I want people to think? Like it's the first thing that we need to do. And exercise that I will go through with my clients, because it is hard. Like this is not like this magic thing, is I'll have them, create this alter ego. Because very, very quickly we will start talking ourselves out of it. Like, who am
Yeah.
I to be powerful? Who am
Yeah.
I to be successful? Who am I? So, but if we almost create this like Sasha Fierce version of it,
Yeah.
fight for her when you may not be fighting for you.
Yeah, I love that. So just to dig deeper, so that to give sort of some meat on the bones, like what you're saying, don't go for the obvious, like confident or whatever. Would you be looking for us to dig into words like, I don't know, what came to mind for me as you were saying that was like I definitely want to be seen as bold or passionate or authentic, or are those the kinds of things you're wanting us to get to?
Absolutely. And then also a lot of it has to do with really aligning with values,
Yeah.
because it's more of those words. Because our goal as women that have impact is to really find our people and to really getting our message across. And when we understand what our values are and we can use our clothes to convey that, it
Yeah.
really will help differentiate those superficial kind of things that we all should be saying. Like everyone says to me, I want to be polished. I want to be put together. And I was like, well, I didn't think you wanted to be frumpy, but like out of like, it's like the, kind of like the mindset work. Like, oh, I want to be this, I want to that. But when we get really deep to that, like, 5 layers in, that's when the good stuff, and that's when you actually can trust yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you're being superficial, you're
Yes.
kind of like pretty, maybe not like it gets like very, very, but when you hone in, you really anchor into what this means to you, it's much deeper than clothes.
Yeah. Yeah. So help us like making that transition. And obviously you can't sort of give a full sort of branding thing here, but if I'm wanting that sort of bold or, passionate but my values are about, I don't know, like equality and service and collaboration, how do you make that transition to get from there to how your style shows up in terms of that clothing, that wardrobe, right? What challenges do we face in our closets if we don't understand how style connects to that?
Well, first of all, that's the really cool thing about clothes because we wear a whole entire outfit. So like while in our mind we have this internal fight of like equality and bold, you get to actually wear different things in your wardrobe that actually speak to both of those things. So you could wear a specific color, you can wear a print, you can wear a texture, you can wear an accessory that
Yeah.
will speak to all of those things. But the number one thing I would say is to look in your closet and to really get rid of those things that were that old version of yourself. Like that's the first, that's if you want like a tangible thing to go and do, it's that. Because so many women that I speak to feel like this idea of that their past is holding them back and that like this idea of what got them where they were was what they need to hold on to so tightly. So
Yeah.
where like being a woman in leadership, especially in a male dominated field, what got you to the position you are were probably things like playing small, blending in, going through all of those motions, but will not get you to the next level. So something, if you like own this black blazer and every time you put it on, you are like, I feel like I'm wearing a costume. I feel like it's bothering me. It's restricting me. I feel like a sausage, like all of those things. You want to dig deeper into that and why you're holding it on, because guess what? Your clothes get to be a choice. We a lot of times we're so held back by our closets. Like we're so like because we invest in money, we invested time, we don't want to go shopping
Yeah.
again. But it's actually holding on to that past version of ourselves. So I would say the first thing is to just any of those things that are in your closet that just feel like a previous version that is not suiting you any longer.
Yeah.
And if it feels for you or for your audience hard to let it go of that, because sometimes as like high achieving women, we always want to be prepared, right? Because someone may call and invite us to a luau tomorrow, so we need the grass skirt in our closet. So I would just invite them to take it out of their closet for a few weeks and see if they're going to look for it, because
Yeah.
that's going to be eye-opening. Go put it in your kid's closet, put it on your bed, put it somewhere else that is not in your line of sight. And it'll be a message to, am I ready to shed this stuff? Am I ready to shed that old version of me? Because
Yeah.
clothes are our second skin. It's our chosen skin is what our clothes are.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I'm embarrassed here. You can probably see for those of you who are watching this as opposed to just listening, my cheeks are red because I confess I've got stuff in my closet that's probably 30 years old, Melanie. It's like, oh, good Lord. And it's never comfortable. So I never pick it, but it's still there. So now I know that you advocate that style is a critical piece to help women sort of bridge the wealth gap in corporate environments in particular. So explain that for our listeners, because I'd love to see that connection made between how this style actually impacts and helps you bridge those gaps.
So a lot of it is really about stepping into either who you are now or your next level of success. So what I love about clothes is I say that they're actually a physical form of manifestation. So like while we're all told, like God's holding the vision us achieving the thing, which is great. Like I am you could tell I am such a mindset person, but if you have like a physical item that you could look at and feel and hold on to, it actually helps you become that person. And what it really goes a lot to what we were speaking about before with investing in ourselves. So if you think of like a powerful man, he has a custom made suit.
Yeah.
He's wearing $1,000 shoes. He's wearing a $10,000 watch. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Like, and if women can not say that they need to do all of that, because for some people it's important and it's some people that it's not, but if they could hold that vision of themselves that they are worth it,
Yeah.
because our clothes a lot of times express worth
Yeah.
to
That's true.
ourselves and to other people. So if you are showing up as someone who commands respect, says, you know what, like I am going to stand out in this sea of beige, navy with navy and black, it really helps women, like empowers people to invest in you,
Yeah.
whether it is financially or just a buy-in to what you are working towards.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and that worth is so critical. I want to really put a pin in that for our listeners as well. And for our women listeners out there today in particular, because certainly in the work that I do with my clients, I think for so long we define our sense of value and worth based on external as opposed to internal. So really owning that worth, showing up, as you say, in your second skin that is comfortable and reflects who you are is so important. I mean, I still remember when we were chatting briefly before the show in law, like I'm dating myself, it started in the power suit, right? With the big shoulder pads and the staid colors. And I'm like, to heck with this doesn't reflect me. And then I started showing up with really bold, pretty audacious, what was considered audacious colors and styles back in the day. Now,
You're not dating yourself. I can tell you that I've had conversations with women last week about saying, am I allowed to not wear pantyhose?
yeah,
Like it is not, it's not dated. Like there is the material that women are given in law school has not changed since
yeah,
when you
that's
learned
true.
to do that. It is, if
That
you
is
want to
true.
be taken seriously, you need to be wearing black or navy. You need to look like a man. Like you need to like, let's take
That's
away all of the curves, all of the color, all of the personality. And they have not updated that information as of yet. That is one of my goals in life
yeah,
is to
that's
get that
so
information
true.
updated. But it really has to do with it. And then the other thing also of trusting yourself,
Yeah,
because so many times I speak with some of the smartest, most intelligent, successful women, and they are looking for external validation for what they are wearing. They
yeah,
are walking around wanting a compliment
that's
or
true.
wanting to someone say that I like your shoes or you look nice before they think that they look great today or that they exude confidence.
So
Like
true.
it's horrible, like, because that's when that second guessing is happening, and that's why I find so important to give my clients tangible information of what
Yeah,
their style is, so it doesn't feel like this magical thing. It's like, no, these are the 3 things. This
yeah,
is so for some people it's color, for some people it's a print, for some people it's a structure of something, but that's the thing, it's your unique
yeah.
thing and no one can give it to you.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Now, I can't remember, I read somewhere that you caution that dressing as the older version of yourself holds you back from showing up and negotiating your best life. Can you tell us a bit about that? Or is that what you were saying earlier about that? If it's you're looking in your closet and this doesn't reflect you, is that what you mean by
Mhm.
that older version?
Yeah, it definitely is really about that older version. The other thing also is that, as I mentioned before, I will have a lot of clients that will have this internal struggle that goes on within their head of still dressing in the same clothes as the person who made half of their salary and had
Yeah.
responsibilities for half of the people and half of the things. Like I've had clients, husbands even tap them on the shoulder, like, hey, so you've had 2 promotions so far. Maybe we need to update your
Yeah.
clothes because I will literally be like, hey, you still have the same Ann Taylor suit from law school and you are wearing this. So
Yeah.
it really has to do with stepping into the next level. And as women, for a lot of my clients, they don't understand how to invest in themselves. And I am not saying that every single person needs to go and buy $1,000 blazer.
Yeah.
It is just like, but they feel so overwhelmed. So I've worked with a lot of women that thought that that was the answer. That, okay, so I've made all of this money, so I'm going to go to Neiman Marcus and I'm going to hire a personal shopper.
Yeah.
And then they spend $10,000 and it still doesn't feel like them.
Yeah.
So it really is doing that identity work of who am I now as this person who has achieved the success, and clothes feels like, let me tell you, the bottom of the list here. But often it is the thing that is like, okay, I need to go get a headshot for my firm, or someone wants to speak on a panel and I don't have a great picture of myself, or who am I to stand on your stage when I just look like everyone else?
Yeah.
So if you can't put your wow factor into how you're showing up and you truly feel like you're embodying that person, you may be standing on that stage and you just kind of fall flat because both things, it's the internal and the external need to work together.
So good. And now you had mentioned earlier about the shoulds, and I know that you also caution that choosing to dress from that sense of should will really, negatively impact on your confidence, on your connection, on your authenticity. And again, I'd love if you could dig in. Like when you say that, do you mean shoulds like, oh, lawyers should wear that black and state or whatever? Are they the kind of shoulds you're talking about?
Those sorts of shoulds, but there's also a whole laundry list of other shoulds. Like when there's certain things that I really, being growing up in the fashion industry and working in the fashion industry my whole entire life, there has been so many things that we are shown of what we should be buying. So there's magazines that have, these are the 10 things that you should have in your closet. This is the capsule wardrobe that would make your life easier. These are the trends for this season that will make you look like you are in style. These are the things you need to get out of your closet because you're going to look stale and dated. Like
Yeah.
there's all of these like concepts of what's going on with our wardrobes. But here's the thing that like, as smart women, we need to realize the fashion industry come 2025 will be a $1 trillion a year industry. They are the smartest marketers of anyone. So, and unfortunately, they play on women's insecurities.
Yes.
So they actually will tap into, they're using models that don't look like you. So
Yeah.
therefore make you feel insecure. And then you go and buy the things and you think that you're going to like live their life. So there's lots of these shoulds that circle, that circle, that circle. And if you don't have this clear understanding of how you want to show up in the world, you can go in 75 different directions and play into someone else's idea of how you should be showing up as a strong and powerful woman.
Yeah. Wow. Now, I know you've mentioned about women ending up, well, and not just women, about opportunities that get passed up because you don't have sort of the clothes or the style to suit the occasion. So what do you suggest that we can do about that?
So the number one thing is, I spoke about the idea of this like physical manifestation, is we've all heard the term like dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have, but
Yeah.
there's so much power in that. I've had so many clients that have been passed up for a partnership. And when they went and spoke to a mentor, or they went and spoke to, hired a coach, they have tapped them on the shoulder and said, well, you're not really showing up as someone who looks like you want this next level of success. Like, and with our clothes, we are sending those messages to other people. And so it's really doing that 100% embodiment of starting before you're ready and almost like fudging it in your head. Like it's happening. And I mean, it's happening. But like you can be sending the message inadvertently that maybe you don't want to be speaking on a panel because you're showing up in a black wrap dress every single day. Or like you don't want the spotlight to be on you. Like I've had so many clients that really feel like they're almost like the walls of the curtains in a meeting. But when we kind of unpack it, I'm like, but you're not showing up as someone who's saying that I have a different opinion than everyone else in the room.
Yeah.
So it's really making sure that your clothes are actually exuding that you are ready to step into the spotlight, because otherwise people are just assuming that you're just like everyone else.
Oh, I love it. And how does style confidence improve negotiations? So for our listeners out there who maybe shy away from their power in negotiations, what can style confidence do for them?
It helps you own the room.
Yeah.
Like, fortunately,
Yeah.
unfortunately, as women, we have female bodies.
Yeah.
And we could, not saying that we should, make ourselves be like these objects, but it really, we can, more than any man, we can tell someone to look in our direction. And that's not saying doing things with our shape, but it's just like saying like, you can wear red, you can wear something pink, you can wear something a little edgy and racy. So it really has to do with the idea of saying, you need to look at me. And we could do all sorts of things. Like one of the tip that I tell my clients all of the time, because one of their favorite things usually is to wear a funky shoe, but you're actually telling someone to look at your feet. So it's like, okay, so let's then, what else can we put by our face that is the same color as the shoe? So we're always drawing the attention back, because we always want people to be listening to what we're saying, not staring at our feet all day long. But it also then has to do, another really important thing is to also know how we naturally come off, and to use our clothes to either work to enhance it or actually work to negate the ways that we typically come off. A lot of my clients are introverts. So, and as introverted women, we are, and I am as well. You may not know comment, but I am in specific situations. Is I'm extremely introverted, especially in those new situations. I could speak on a stage in front of 1,000 people, but please do not make me go up to one person and start a conversation with them.
Yeah.
But when in those specific situations, if we can be thought as rigid, as standoffish, that we think that we're better than everyone else, and if we know that that's how we naturally come across, we could actually use our close to connection when we are struggling inside to make the connection.
Yeah.
So if let's say you're going to a networking event and you need to, in your mind, you're like, I'm going to meet 3 people today. Like that's what I need to do. And your head is saying, don't do it, and all of that stuff. If you're, let's say, wearing a cool necklace, you're giving giving the conversation starter.
Yeah.
So if you're in a room full of everyone in the sea of black, it's really about, using your clothes to create that connection.
Yeah.
And I think that, we were talking about soft skills before in negotiation. Sometimes the softer skills are really much more helpful than that, like coming in as like a lion or a tiger.
Yeah. And I love this idea about attracting the attention in the room to you, because I think we shy away from that. As you say, like, let me blend into the background here. We don't. So I think that's beautiful advice as well. Be intentional about attracting attention to yourself. If you want to stand out, if you want to move ahead, if you want to have your voice heard, your position heard, then you need to be able to command attention in a room. So who would have known? This has been fabulous as well for me about the extent to which our clothing does. But you're right. You walk into any room, any event, anytime, your eyes will automatically be drawn to the people who have that absolutely authentic sense of style that sets them apart, and that they wear it with confidence. It makes them show up differently, and it makes them very magnetic in a room, which who couldn't use that?
And here's the cool thing, the opposite of magnetic, is repelling.
Yeah.
So for me, one of the things that I typically used to struggle with for a really long time is I really like pink. And a lot of my clients are female attorneys, and I was afraid to wear pink because I thought in my mind that they would think that I would try to put them in pink. Like that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And so I shied away from all of that. But what I realized, and I've realized this a lot of times with clients, it is a really quick litmus test to who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with.
Yeah.
So if someone has a problem with the fact that I'm wearing like a red and pink leopard blazer, probably not a person. Like the same thing, like if the client kind of doesn't like the way that you're communicating, they're going to have a problem with an email that you sent at some point in time. And it's a really good way to figure out, who your people are and who your people aren't. And which is something as women we're afraid to. We want everyone to like us.
It's so true. That is so true. Don't be afraid to push away. And, in law as well, be prepared to fire your clients, or in the personal development industry, whatever you're in. Surround yourself with people that you want to be. And part of that, I love that idea about using clothes as a litmus test for that. I think that's great. So this has been fabulous, Melanie. Really appreciative for the messages that you've shared here for us. And I normally like to, and I can't believe how fast our time has gone, but what is one of the greatest mindset shifts that you've ever had in your life? I always like to end that. Doesn't have to be on this topic at all. It can be just anything. One of those aha moments that changed how you think.
It's kind of speaks to a lot of what we've been speaking about. So I actually just got back from a 5-day trip in Lisbon with my business coach and 25 other brilliant women that are in my mastermind. And we all kind of went there hoping we were going to get the magic pill. Like, as we all do. Like my clients come to me thinking I'm going to give them style suddenly. Like I'm going to hand it to them and serve it up on a silver platter. And one of the biggest things that I've learned is that I need to learn to trust myself, and that I know what's good for me. I know what's good for my clients. I know what's good for my wardrobe. And when we have that internal trust, we no longer seeking outside validation. So it's true with every single aspect of our life, but it just happened like this weekend. Like, I mean, I always knew it, but how we kind of going to be different. And I'm like, okay, here we go again.
I love that. It's funny because one of the core elements, like my sort of R-FIT model for the art of negotiation, the art of feminine negotiation, is about that rapport building, empathy, flexibility, intuition, and trust in particular. But I've never actually drawn that connection between how important it is. I talk about having to negotiate your mindset, but I think that is a powerful message. Trust yourself. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I know you've got a free gift for our audience out there. You've got a lead magnet called the Free Closet Clarity Experience. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So as high achieving women, we often stand in front of our closet full of clothes thinking that we have absolutely nothing to wear, even though it is jam-packed with the seams. So what this really is 5 steps to eliminate wardrobe overwhelm delivered to your email every single day that will help you just have one strategic thing that you should do each day to make you take the control back for getting dressed without needing to lose any weight, because that is always the key that kind of is holding us back from working on our wardrobe, is feeling like if our bodies were a little bit different, this would be so much easier. So that is not a prerequisite. It's actually one of the things that I tell my clients is you need to figure out your style for right now. So you do not need to lose weight, and you're actually not wasting any time because you are using the time that you take to get dressed each day to be doing these activities. So I would love to just share this wealth of experience, because it really goes from you standing in front of your closet, feeling like, I don't even know where to start, to just giving you what are the one or two things that you could be thinking about each day. So you feel like you have that control back.
Oh, so good. Well, I will definitely be signing up for that. And for our listeners, we'll make sure to put the link for that in our show notes. So make sure to check out the show notes so you can grab the link for that. And Melanie, where would you want people to get in touch with you? What's the best place for them to reach out to learn more about you and the fabulous work you're doing?
I like to hang out on LinkedIn.
Okay, that's nice and easy. And is it under Melanie Lippman? Is that
Yeah,
where
Melanie Lippman, just my full name.
Okay, beautiful. And that's a double P. And we will make sure to in Lippman, and we will make sure to put that in the show notes for you as well. And thanks so much for being here today, Melanie. I know I got tons of value from this, and I'm sure our listeners did as well. So thanks so much.
Pleasure.
And for our listeners out there, I am sure that you also got tons of value from this episode. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and give the gift of sharing. Make sure to share this podcast with people in your life who you think could benefit from it. And this episode in particular, I think this is an issue that we don't talk about often enough. And I think there is a profound connection between the style that we show and the success that we achieve in life. So definitely make sure to share this episode and share the podcast. And also feel free to go out there and grab a copy of my book, The Art of Feminine Negotiation: How to Get What You Want from the Boardroom to the Bedroom. And that is a wrap for this episode. So until next time, go forth and negotiate your best life on your terms, so you can stop missing out and start getting more of what you deserve from the boardroom to the bedroom. Until next time, take care.